Put on your big Hollywood sunglasses and light the torch, because it's cellar time. Welcome to the Crack Cellar. As the prophecy was once sexually assaulted, I'm Two-Spirit Penguin Daniel.
And I am Lucator Nickels.
Broadcaster Nickels. I don't think I've actually ever been in a situation where someone said, something to me and I went after them in a way where it would potentially cause them to take my life in retribution. I'm trying to think of anything like that's ever happened. And
well, most people aren't like that. Most normal people, I'd say 99% of people, they don't have the balls to do that. And maybe not balls is the right word, but they're aware of the repercussions, the risk. Everyone's calculating how they can't be harmed, or how they could go out throughout their day without being harmed.
Yeah. And
so people don't make chess moves like that.
Well, part of the problem too is that everyone secretly thinks they're invincible. There's this weird human trick the mind does where you think you're unkillable, you're the protagonist in this movie and you have plot armor. That's kind of
until people start looking at you with ape eyes, and then you're like, oh shit, I'm in the jungle.
Yeah. Exactly. Reality versus conceptual reality.
Yeah.
It's
there is a definitive look of a bad man or a bad person looking at you, and you'll know it when you catch eyes.
Yeah.
You'll know.
There's only a few times that I've felt that way. One time was in Rock Springs when I was face to face with the drug lord of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and the other time was when I worked for Brian of .com. There's a difference though. The drug dealer, it was killer eyes. With it was child molester eyes.
Yeah, well, the type of guy where it's just I could kill him if I had to, but
he'd do some damage.
Yeah, he would do some damage, and if you didn't take him out, you'd be afraid of what his next move is.
Oh yeah,
he's a rat. He has rat tactics. He'll fucking come after you some way if you don't take him down immediately.
Yeah. If you take a shot at you don't miss. That's
exactly.
That's the moral of this story.
You make sure he thinks you're on his side to the very end.
Yes. That is some good advice for prospective future employees of .com. I wonder if that still exists.
It does.
It does? It's still... Wait.
Well, last time I Googled it was a year and a half ago, but yeah. It was.
Dude, how could a dude peddling obviously fake autographs online be operational still 14 years? Wait, how many years has he been doing that shit, dude?
Dude, you ever heard it, man? Can't stop, won't stop, bro. That's how it is.
14 years, I think, that he's been doing that.
When you Google his name or you get, not only do you get his website, but the next search hits are detractors. People straight out. When I Googled it, it was, and then right underneath it was a website dedicated to talking about how was a fraud. It was not a legitimate business. It was a fake business.
Wow.
I was okay, well, that's America as it gets. Mm-hmm. Selling fake memorabilia, and then right underneath it, telling Americans how it's fake. And it's still right there. It's just right there, right on top.
Yeah, it's a funny story too with that. When I quit .com, it was the year 2008, and I had just got my second job in the IT industry. And I told him, and I was like, you can't match this. I know you're not going to pay me this much, bro. So I'm out, and he was fine with it at first. And my wife, then girlfriend, was still working for him after that by herself with him. And I immediately started to get I don't know, creeped out by it. Just her being alone near because those eyes, we've talked about them. They're not they're definitely not the eyes of someone that's against sexual assault.
No, the eyes of a rat.
But funny story. Eventually, she just got sick of his ass and like all his. You remember him, like the way he just abused his employees constantly. Like she got sick of the abuse and she just wanted to quit. And I was like, yeah, I'm making a lot of money now. You can just quit. You don't have to work there with him. So she quits, right? Dude, Brian calls me and he accuses me of being the person who made the website you were just talking about, the one that's dedicated to discrediting him, that's right under. Dude, I shit you not. He calls me. He's like, I know it's you. I know you made that website about this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm coming for you and blah, blah, blah. And I call him back. I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck about your fucking business. I'm just trying to fucking work my way up the IT ladder here. I don't really give a fuck. I didn't do anything. Didn't do anything,
Listen. While I'm not going to rat on your fake business, I am also not a proponent of your fake business. This is America. No pun intended. Go sell your autographs, you rat bastard. I still remember when we're doing stories, when everyone's drinking and stuff and they're trying to tell their stories, I always use the story to one up everybody. Because no one ever has a story.
Nah,
like every time,
one.
Yeah, when I whip that out, I always feel like I'm like, yeah, who's gonna fucking beat that story? Who sold a $10,000 fucking Beatles White Album and just watched it go out the door? You're just like, wow.
Yeah, it's quite the enterprise, and yeah.
Also the bathhouse thing too.
Oh yeah,
I'll never forget that either. I'm just like, what the hell was I even like? I was like, all right, this dude pays me a lot of money. He's telling me he's going to pay for 13 coins. I mean, I've never even been to 13 coins before. I'm gonna go eat fucking steak and shrimp scampi, all right, and then have some fried ice cream, all right. What the fuck's fried ice cream? So, anyways, like an innocent child, I fall into that fucking honeypot, and then next thing you know, he's like, well, I like Jack Johnson. Let's go listen to Jack Johnson in this bathhouse. I like Jack Johnson. I'm making that up. Okay. Obviously, the bathhouse was it's so weird. He's so sleazy about it. He's like, because there was 4 of us, right? And he's just like, the boys, let's go to the bathhouse and relax. Like that's what we do. We light cigars and we sit in the hot tubs and we like. And I'm like, all right, dude, like this must be the part of the life. All right, I'm gonna go eat steak and shrimp scampi. You also smoke cigars in the hot tub. That's what it is. There was no cigars. This wasn't manly at all. It immediately got super creepy. I think I was in that hot tub for maybe like 5 minutes. And I was like, you guys aren't like really on my level. So I'm just going to get out of this hot tub and go wait in the lobby.
Yeah.
It got really weird, dude. Like, I mean, already a weird motherfucker, but try being alone with that guy in a hot tub room with 3 other dudes. It's fucking got weird.
Yeah, and I think this was just like, I think that was actually in prison for like 10 years before we started working for him, and he kind of just got out around when we started working for him.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Wasn't it something like that?
Well, remember, he has
like he was real prison too, not like county lockup, not like some
federal state penitentiary.
Yeah, he was in the pen,
yeah. He had what's his name from Judas Priest on his forearm, and he's like super conscious about it. Like I remember the first time I pointed it out, because I didn't know his name, I was like, oh, that's the dude from Judas Priest, and I think it's Brian something is his name, but he just was like. Immediately, he was just like, yeah, I can't believe I got that faggot on my arm. Fucking biggest regret of my life. And it's just like, I wish I could take it back. And it's just like, whoa. And it like, he legitimately, like, that was like, it wasn't a joke. It immediately struck a nerve with him that someone recognized the tattoo, and he like had to call it out. Like he had to express it. He's like, no, I don't like gay people. Like I definitely didn't put this guy on my arm because he's gay, and it was like, okay, dude, who are you trying to tell, me or you? It was just one of those moments where it's just like someone has some issues.
Yeah. Well, I think the
Rob
weirdest
Halford,
part,
not Brian. Rob Halford.
Yeah, yep. I think the weirdest thing about that whole hot tub thing is the fact that the other victim with you was their nephew slash son.
Oh yeah. I totally forgot about that. So the older dude, besides Brian, was his brother-in-law or brother,
No, brother,
and
not in law.
yeah, brother.
Well,
and
at least that's
then,
what he claimed. That it was his
yeah,
real brother.
they didn't look like they were.
They
related.
did
I think,
not.
I'm pretty sure his brother was another criminal that was hiding.
Mm-hmm.
But then his son, so his nephew, quote unquote, or whatever, that made it even weirder.
Well, that's the thing that made it kind of glued the lie together. If it was a lie, it's that kid, the guy who was with you in the hot tub. It's just like
I think he was a paid escort.
Well, maybe, but he was claiming that guy was his dad and that was his uncle. And it's like, if both of and this guy claim that, you're kind of like, I don't believe you. But when you have this kid who also corroborates your story a little bit, it's like, oh, is this real? It's weird. And then like the fact that
I remember the kid being way more real though.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, he never came off like he was lying.
No, he didn't.
You know,
I believed him, and but I don't believe everything else. So it's kind of like a cognitive dissonance a little bit with that. It's just like I believe him. Maybe he's just a really good actor, though. And then like
I mean,
he was
when you're listening. When you're listening to these people and there's a garage full of fucking fake guitars with fake signatures on them, you're just like, what is real? Like, what are we talking about here?
As far as I'm concerned with that hot tub thing, there's only a few scenarios. One, and this is the least likely, it was just an innocent hot tub. You know, we're the Sopranos and we're going to smoke cigars and celebrate our success in the hot tub. Totally straight, totally normal, nothing weird. I put that as the low odds option. Two is that the guy actually was working with and the other old guy, and it was a way to entrap you into like some weird gay orgy. And that he was playing the part as like your second person to like make it seem safe. So you're in the hot tub with this guy and you think that he is the son and nephew of these guys. So it's like there's no possible way I'm about to get raped because like this guy's like it's their own blood. There's no way. But then
I mean, it was definitely just a fucking loser. And he doesn't know how to actually be a genuinely good person. So he just can't help but be sleazy and awkward, even in moments of generosity, like he was doing in that day. You know, he's like, because he was genuinely being a good person that day. Like he dropped,
and he wanted a reward for that.
Yeah. That's where the projection and assumptions come in, right? You're like, what really was going on, right? But deep down, I mean, I think what really was going on is he was a loser. He doesn't have any real friends. He's a guy that thinks money buys him everything. He has no heart. I mean, he literally abandoned his dogs on the side of on a dirt road and let him die in the wilderness. He's not a good human being, but he has like these I don't know what it is, but he thinks he has some capacity to be human around other real humans, and that's where those moments come up. He's like, well, I'm gonna treat my employees. I'm gonna spend lavish amounts of money. You know, give them steak, shrimp scampi, buy him. You know, he dropped like $500 each on us that day. Not only what he paid us for the work and the bonuses, but that as well with 13 coins in the bathhouse and stuff. So it's like. You know, I think deep down the guy just has like this weird ego where he's like, they're gonna think I'm so fucking cool, dude.
Yeah.
Like I'm just the shit. I got both. I remember one time I stepped into was it a Toyota 4Runner? What was that car he had that he was super proud of?
I think it was a 4Runner. I think
was it a 4Runner? Just a tricked out not tricked out, like it was the best stock model Toyota makes, right?
Yeah.
And I remember getting
like
these giving me. Yeah, I think it was actually the day we were going to 13 coins. I think he actually drove me or something, but fucking he turned up AC/DC in the car with the windows down, and he's like, those are Bose speaker, or no, those are JBL speakers, bro. And I was like, oh wow, dude. He's just one of those guys, bro.
Yeah.
Just happens to be a fucking felon as well.
He's definitely just one of those guys, but I think that your happy path, like your best case scenario of what was going on there, that was, and to me it's a little odd. And what I talked about before with the
heart of
ambush,
darkness,
with the nephew like working together as an actor to ambush you. That was probably the medium odds option. No. Here's the thing I think actually happened, and man,
this was a staged actor.
This is the dark path, like the really bad version. It's real that he was the cousin, like, or he was the brother, and that was his nephew, and that whole family dynamic was real, and they were still trying to do things with the both of you.
Oh, you're thinking they were like some weird third act gay Manson family type thing going on.
Yeah, because I'll tell you right now, I don't put above incest. Like when you look into that man's eyes, I do not see someone that would be totally adverse to something like that.
Listen, I usually don't try to make fun of people with their diseases and whatnot and handicaps, but that witch of a fucking mail order bride he had. Dude, I remember one day I walked into work, and I was relatively young when I was working for this guy. I think I was 18 or something like that. Or 19, maybe. Couldn't even legally drink yet. And I remember just because I sat right next to like second half, like the nice one. You remember the older lady that would like always talk to Chinese, but she was like completely the opposite. She actually like was nice and kind to other people and was just a genuine bitch. But yeah, but I remember one time came into the room me and worked in. She just had like, I've seen herpes sores, all right?
Oh yeah.
I've seen cold sores and whatever you want to call them, you know, usually they're minor. Sometimes they get a little nasty, you know, and you don't want to like make eye contact with people because you're afraid you'll glance down at it or something. But this thing on her upper lip, it was concerning. It was like almost tumorish. Oh. And it was like I had never seen anything like it before. And I remember the look of concern on his face when she saw it. And I was just like, oh shit, what the fuck is it? I held my shit in that whole day. I didn't want to use it because we shared bathrooms. Oh, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to that. I'm not touching that toilet seat. Fuck no. I always think about it. And it's like, man, lays in bed with that. Yeah, he would be. That rat bastard would be okay with that, dude. Like, he probably gave it to her, to be honest. For a minute, I almost felt sorry for because I was just like, man, I bet you her and are talking shit about giving her that nasty thing in Chinese right now.
Yeah. I remember one time sent me up into his bedroom, I think to just get something he left up there. It was just like, hey, go up to his room and get something like that. I forget exactly what it was. But I remember going up there and looking at his sheets for his bed, and they were covered in blood. Covered. Like 4 foot by 3 foot circle oval of blood in the middle of the sheets.
That's gross. It means they had some type of weird accident and they never even changed the sheets. Like, just kept them.
And yeah, I brought it up to, and he said that it was on her period. That was his excuse for it, but it never sat right with me. Every time I think about it, I'd just be like, you know.
Well, why would, okay, first of all, let's dissect this a little bit here, right? So you run a fake business out of your house, probably not even your house, and you send your undocumented employee up to your personal quarters, where you have left a grotesque display of period blood stained on the sheets, and you know it's there, and then your employee acknowledges that it's there, and then you just tell them the unfiltered truth. You're just like, yeah, my wife's on her period. It's just like, okay, well, why did you send me into the fucking room where you hadn't even cleaned it up yet? Like, what kind of professional shit is that?
And you could have put a blanket over it or something. They
Yeah,
didn't. It was just there.
You could Big Daddy it at least. Put some newspaper down,
Yeah.
My God.
Mm.
Dark days. Dark days.
Dark days indeed. And I swear to God, if they ever do if they ever finally arrest Brian and he goes wherever he deserves to go, and somehow Hollywood decides to make a movie about him, and by the grace of Grapthar's hammer, Tim Dillon must play Brian.
Oh, absolutely!
He must play him. He must.
He has to, dude. I would have to consult him myself. I'm like, you have to point to Rob Halford on your right forearm with the most grit in your face and say, "Faggot." You have to do it that way, or it just won't land. The audience won't feel it. I know Tim Dillon's the only comedian that would get me on that. He's like, I understand. I came out of the closet when I was 25, Nick. I understand. I'm like, okay, Tim, just why don't you start acting?
Yeah. When people just casually bring up someone being born for a role, I usually roll my eyes. But the fact of the matter is, Tim Dillon was born for the role of Brian. He was born for it.
I mean, he sold subprime mortgages in his early 20s. I mean, it's as close as you get to selling fake memorabilia for 15 years, right? I mean, those things correlate.
Oh, the Venn diagram is definitely tight on that one.
It has to. There's some overlapping arches. There has to be.
Well, should we start the podcast?
What's that? You want more Crack Cellar? This is good. Join your lords on Twitter at The Crack Cellar and Facebook.com/The Crack Cellar.
Hey, you over there. Are you a straight up Chad or a strong woman? Well, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and your favorite podcasting app. Or, if you're a straight up beta cuck, find us on YouTube with the rest of the Cloud Chasers. And we're back with our preview of Halo Infinite. Broadcaster Nickels, given the current state of Bungie, is 343's stewardship for the best? I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Bungie has been racing off of the steepest cliff it can find for years now. Is 343 really a downgrade at this point? I don't know. Maybe it's just a side grade. Tell me, Broadcaster Nickels. Tell me.
I come from a time when they were one and the same. The little pup, like 343 was looking up to Dad. And like, I'm gonna be just like you. I'll be just like you. And then one day Dad left. I was like, peace. I'm leaving, Mom. We'll make something better, and you guys can't come. It's kind of like the adult version of No Girls Allowed, but it's like no families allowed. I'm single again. And 343, I just don't think ever recovered from that. I think they said, you know what? Fuck Dad. I'm going to make the best Halo in the world because Mom says I can. Okay. And, I don't think anybody agreed. So that's not true. Halo 4 was bad relatively to the whole series. But Halo 5 really sucked campaign-wise. It was flaming dog shit. But the multiplayer...
Broadcaster Nickels, tell us how you really feel, okay?
But the multiplayer was actually... this might be controversial, but It was good. It was almost some of the best. I'm not going to say it was the best because I think 3 and Reach, 3 definitely better than Reach, but 3 and Reach were like the top of the mountain as far as multiplayer goes for Halo. But 5 was 343's best attempt to getting there. Like they were almost there. And maybe some people would say, I've seen some people say it was the best Halo's ever been, but I think those people were were so far into withdrawal of what Halo used to be, and they're just fiending for something good, that Halo 5 multiplayer came around, and they're like, oh my God, this isn't complete flaming dog shit. So, oh my God, I'm getting some endorphins. Oh God, a dopamine hit. So they were like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah, so this is like when you get, like, if you're like an English teacher in like the middle of the Sudan and you get abducted by ISIS, and for like a month they starve you to death.
Absolutely.
And give you some rats, and then like on day 47 of confinement they come in with like a filet mignon and a butter biscuit and a fucking baked potato and all this shit, and they're like, see, we're nice, we like you, tell us this thing, and we'll send you right home first class.
I would have really said Hezbollah to spice it up, but yeah, absolutely.
Listen, dude, I don't want to get involved in current geopolitics. I want to use ISIS because they don't exist anymore, so we can't get in trouble for it.
We defeated them, bro.
ISIS, dude, literally, ISIS was like creating a caliphate like the size of 7 countries, and then Trump comes into office and goodbye. It's just fucking vanished off the goddamn planet and nobody talks about it. The fact that the fucking caliphate of ISIS just got erased. And that's why I used them in my example.
We're pro-Israel here on this podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, we are not for or against anything that may get us in trouble for any ism or ist that exists. And that is why we go with ISIS, the non-existing terrorist. How can we get in trouble for something that isn't real, Broadcaster Nickels?
But back to, I mean, where were we at in Halo Infinite?
So, like, how do we get from ISIS? Oh, yeah, Halo Infinite. I will say this. About 343 Studios. I have been a very big detractor of theirs forever. I have always kind of said, fuck you, and you're not Halo. And I have to give them a little credit. When I watched that campaign footage from a year ago that came out, I was like, you know what? This looks like shit. But they had the balls to show us this shit, man. Like, this was not good gameplay. It wasn't a good, like, all the CG stuff wasn't really good. The story wasn't really good. Like, it was just sort of like watching like some kid doing like a class and making a game for his class, and like this was his like report for the end of a semester or something. That's kind of how it felt. And most studios today do not even have 1/4 of the balls required to do that.
Absolutely not.
They'll show you some fucking souped up CG cutscene that's totally fake, that has nothing to do with the game, to promote it, not show you real shit like 343 did.
Well, see, this is all relative, because this is Halo. It's one of the bigger IPs out there in video games. So people look at it a little bit more, with a little bit more scrutiny, So when that free-to-play Battle Royale game was shown to the world with a Halo skin on it, I'm saying that in that way very specifically because there's been a lot of Battle Royales that have come out lately, and they've kind of flopped. Even Warzone after a year is kind of just pretty much dead now, and they're all low budget. They're all bloated, over budget, free to play, tons of microtransactions, no one gives about, dies on the vine type shit. And I think 343 thought they could dip in on that pool. But I think people, and I say people, I mean video game fans, especially the ones that want a Halo game, saw that shit go down, and it was kind of like the equivalent of when Blizzard pulled Diablo Immortal. You know, I mean, it wasn't as bad. I'm not trying to say it was as bad, but it's pretty much the same effect.
What, don't you guys have phones?
Yeah, a company thinking they could get away with being a little bit more greedy than usual and not realizing the backlash would be real. That's why they fucking postponed it another year or whatever from that time. So, you know, it is what it is. I think you do have a solid point, though, that, you know, when a company comes out and they show you something that objectively looks like crap, but they have the balls to actually show you it, means that maybe there's like a fun game loop there that we can't really feel until you play it, and they're confident about it, and that's why they're willing to release it so early. But if we're looking at history, it's probably just a cash grab. They're releasing a game that shouldn't be released yet for free, monetize the crap out of it. It will be, I mean, it's hard to say successful, but it's, you know, for a company that has only been making Halos that have been diminishing in sales. I don't know if that's true, honestly, but I would just assume that they're not near the sales of yesteryear. So
yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, so they're probably looking at this chance to do a free-to-play Halo BR, and they're just like, look at all the rest of the companies, man. They're making tons of fucking money. Let's do this shit. You know? So I think for real, that's what's going on and what happened.
So what is Halo Infinite? What do you think it actually is? Because
it's a BR, no doubt.
It's a battle royale. So you think it is definitely a Trojan horse for inserting battle royales into Halo?
It's okay. Well,
because what I saw tried to pretend like it was a sequel or a spin-off or some weird sort of open world experiment, maybe. But it definitely didn't seem like a battle royale in what I saw. However, all the information I've heard third hand makes it seem like it is a battle royale. So I'm kind of confused about what Halo Infinite actually is.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing up another interesting point to, you know, the fact that maybe what we did see was some weird new take on Halo with that grapple hook and everything. Like, it wasn't totally different, but it was still different enough to where people were, you know, kind of scratching their head. And if that wasn't a BR, and the reaction was what it was, even worse, right? Because then the takeaway from that video was, oh, this doesn't look like Halo. This is supposed to be a BR ? That's what all the rumors are ? And then they're like, fuck, they don't like it, and it's not a BR. Once they find out it's not a BR, it's like they'll probably panic, dude. So that's just another scenario where they're just like, delay the game for a fucking year at least. We got to make it a BR, and you got to polish up the shit turd that we were going to release nonetheless. You know?
Yeah, and yeah, this was originally supposed to be released last year, but it was delayed. Like, seems like every AAA game that now exists gets delayed.
Yeah.
It's just permanent par for the course.
And we should say that delaying for a year isn't suspicious by any means nowadays. It's very par for the course. So Bungie isn't like sus in any way for delaying their game. Like, everyone fucking does it, especially right now.
Yeah. Not at all. But that being said, do you actually think this is going to come out in 2021? So I think the current release schedule is like summer 2021. This game is supposed to be in our hands by July, I think. And June,
I'm sure it will.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll actually come out, or do you think it's going to get the triple delay, like the cyberpunk style, like delay, release and still bad, delay, fix patches, invent story about hackers taking our computers so that we have an excuse not to fix this shit sooner, delay.
So funny. It's They literally come up with the modern day version of the dog ate my homework.
Yeah.
So a hacker took over my computer.
Yeah, like your dumb
you.
Yeah, like your dumb uncle that's like, oh dude, I'm rich now, so you should be nice to me. And you're like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh dude, I just like got an email from like the ruler of Zimbabwe, and he's like, dude, I got a $60 million transfer, but I need you to funnel it for me. You get like a 20% cut, so you're gonna get like blah blah blah. That's basically what they want you to believe. That's what CD Projekt Red wants you to believe. They fell for that, basically.
Yeah, I mean, to be real, I hope I'm completely wrong, because to this day I'm still a huge Halo fanboy, and I would like Halo to come back to its glory days, especially because I think FPSs need it, BRs need it. I think, I used to, not even too long ago, I thought BRs were this fad. There's just a scourge on FPSs, FPS being an oversaturated genre to begin with. BR was just the next cancer tumor, But lately, I think it's a miracle in disguise. I think BRs, the potential for the BR subgenre is so much more than the main genre it stems from, FPSs, that it's just crazy to think about what you could really do with the gameplay loop of a BR. So coming back to my original point, I really hope that Halo Infinite is a BR, and I really hope it is successful, because fucking we need it. Not only do gamers really need a fucking good game right now to come out, but the genre itself, the subgenre itself, really fucking needs it.
Yeah.
After Warzone, I hope Warzone comes out with a good map. It might get rejuvenated here soon in the next month or so, but as far as looking back retrospectively in the whole year of it, it's like, what? With the 3-game launch, the fucking dumbass UX design, like all that shit, it's just like, you know what? It almost made it just put a shitty taste in your mouth for BRs. So Halo Infinite's looking like a little Jesus out there.
Yeah, it's definitely a come to Jesus moment for the BR subgenre. It is fallen into this really extreme rut of just like every game is full of hackers in almost every BR that exists. And the most popular BR is this cartoony ass bullshit that is meant for kids. Like, Fortnite's a kid's game. I know people get mad when I say that, but it is. It's just as much as a kid's game as Toy Story is a kid's movie. Okay, people? It is a kid's game. And that's the most popular BR. And the number 2 one is Warzone, a game that is infested with cheaters and is just nearly unplayable because of the design choices that they've made and their just reluctance to enforce any sort of anti-cheat. So we have this hole in the BR genre. We have Fortnite still that's going strong, but it's really a kid's game. Adults, I think, are probably starting to get wary of the genre. And what do adults want? They probably want a new Halo game that's good. So Halo coming out with a BR would just be like fucking perfect timing right now, if it's good, which is a big if.
Word. Say word.
And speaking of Fortnite, I noticed that they sort of changed the art style in Halo Infinite, unless they changed it since what I saw. So all my information on this game is from a year ago. But when I saw that trailer, or that 8 minutes of gameplay or whatever it was, the graphics looked oddly cartoony compared to old Halo games. What do you think about that? Do you think that's an obvious nod to Fortnite and they're trying to appeal to that crowd?
No, I think it's just a nod to low budget. I mean, for real. I mean, it's funny, but it's not a joke. I mean, like, if you when that trailer or the gameplay reveal thing happened back June last year. That was the first thing people were making fun of. I think they took a frame of one of the brutes that were super close to the character view, and they froze it, and they compared it to brutes from like Halo 5, like, you know, running on the the latest Xbox or whatever, and it was just ridiculous how night and day it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was sad, and they gave him some like autistic name, like called him like Gunther or something like that. and I just like, it was a meme for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be what you're picking up on, is just the fact that for Halo period, it's just really low budget, even considering Halo CE, the original. It's just like, wow, what is this? But then again, it is a BR, potentially. It means it's going to be a pretty big, consistent map with a lot of assets going on out. I mean, not only is, if they even have 70% of what most average or what most battle royales have for a player count, then there's that amount of players, like say 70 to 100, plus all the enemies that we saw in the trailer and the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would have to imagine the game has to run pretty low.
Yeah, I agree. And to go off on a positive note, I will say this. I liked the Master Chief's voice actor. I remember that standing out when I watched that video back in the last summer or whatever it was. I don't know if has the voice actor for Master Chief always been the same? Because I fell off Halo pretty early. You're much more of a Halo nerd than I am.
He sounded the same, but I'll be honest, you can get fooled easily. People are really good at imitating iconic voices.
Yes, definitely. But I just remember, I remember having the feeling when I heard him talk, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want Master Chief to sound like. I like this version of Master Chief's voice. I just couldn't remember if it was the same, because I played the original trilogy, and then I never played another Halo again until we played Halo Reach, like last year or 2 years ago, whenever that was. And that was the first time I'd played a Halo since Halo 3.
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that he was talking consistently. It's just jarring a little bit. It sounds like the same voice actor, but I could be mistaken.
Interesting. All right, Broadcaster Nickels. It's time for the dreaded side thumb. That's what I believe you're going to give it. Am I psychic? Let's find out. Broadcaster Nickels, do you give Halo Infinite thumbs up, thumbs down, or the dreaded side thumb?
I give it one fully erected thumb.
Oh, shit. Really?
Of course.
You're on board. You're a true
dude, Halo. Dude, you kidding me? Halo is my boy, dude. I'm not going to I'm going to talk shit, you know? I'm also going to help it up.
All right. Well, I'm going to give it a thumbs down. Nothing I saw in it.
Wow.
Nothing I saw in it was hopeful to me. It seemed very generic.
All right, Doomer.
It was hard. It was hard to see anything really exciting in that footage that I saw. I remember when I watched it, I was just kind of like, this is some really mediocre shit. Like some kid who's in college at Full Sail University has assignment, make your version of Halo for a semester, and that'll be your final for the semester.
This
and that's what
is Halo
came up
in
with.
Unreal Engine 3.
Yeah. It really didn't seem very professional, and it just kind of felt like kind of ho-hum, and I didn't get really any good vibes. Really the only super positive vibe I remember getting from it is Master Chief's voice actor, who may be just the original voice actor, and I just forgot what he sounded like because I haven't played a Halo in so long.
All right. So you're crushing on Master Chief. That's about it. Got it.
Yeah. That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, are you ready to get to our review of WandaVision?
You know, as the powerful Randy Savage once said, rest in power.
Indeed.
The cream always rises to the top.
And we're back with our review of Matt Shakman's WandaVision. And some random guy on the internet describes it as the following. Set 3 weeks after the events of Avengers Endgame, Wanda Maximoff and Vision are living an idyllic suburban life in the town of Westview, New Jersey, trying to conceal their true natures. As they begin to enter new decades and encounter television tropes, the couple suspects that things are not as they seem. Broadcaster Nickels, I use that because the actual official synopsis from Marvel is so god-awful. Oh my god, it is the most pretentious synopsis I've ever read in my life, and on a principle, I decided, fuck that, I'm not using that. It is, you remember that South Park episode where they're all sniffing their own farts and they're like putting them in wine glasses? You remember that? Like they fart into a wine glass.
Yeah.
That is the synopsis for WandaVision officially from Marvel is the equivalent of that.
I feel it.
It's no joke. And that's why some random guy on the internet, I saw him and what he had to say about it. I'm like, you know what? That sounds like a real synopsis, not made by mentally ill people. And I decided to go with that. That being said, this show feels a lot different from the current Disney Marvel offerings. Could it be Matt Shakman? Broadcaster Nickels, what do you know about Matt Shakman?
I mean, kind of sounds like a poker player, maybe amateur league. I mean, lay it on me.
So Matt Shakman was like a child actor, and he was in a bunch of random shit in like the 70s and 80s. But he went on to become a director. And he low-key has directed some really good shit. He directed Fargo. He directed It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He directed Mad Men. He directed The Boys. And, he also directed this little-known show, a few people might have heard of it, Game of Thrones?
Really?
Matt Shakman's a beast, dude. If you look at his IMDb and you look at what he's directed, he has directed some of my favorite shows of all time. It's a huge list. What I just named is like a small sample.
Well, that would explain why the series has such a cool vibe to it.
Yes.
Well, I will say it has. Yeah, for Marvel's sake, I'll say just this for the beginning. This is a pleasant surprise for Marvel.
I agree. And I think one of the things that's so pleasant about it is the pacing of the show. So the show is it's based on these era skips, right? So it starts off with like the I Love Lucy 1950s sitcom. Then it goes to the 1960s Bewitched sitcom. Then it goes to the 1970s Brady Bunch sitcom. Then it goes to the 1980s Married with Children sitcom. Then it goes to the 1990s Blossom sitcom. Like every episode has its own format that it's sort of based on, and they don't keep it too long. That is the key, I think. One episode per era. They don't bore you with it. They give you one episode of it, and they're like, moving on. And I think that was a stroke of genius, and it's one of the reasons that the show kept my interest.
It was definitely one of its special hats. There's no doubt about that. The first, let me think about it really. Like, Man, even the third episode, because the third episode is when they go into color. Man, there was, I think, yeah, episode 4 when what's her name, Monica Rambeau, she starts you start figuring out that she's a superhero. I think that kind of is when the series kind of takes off for me. The first 3 episodes were cool, but they were also almost boring. Like to the point where it was just like, man, like 3 episodes and we still just think she's crazy. Like, you don't know if she's a villain, you don't know if she's doing it herself. Like there's no lure for me, at least, and I'm pretty observational. Like I was really looking for something for like what's it when the bee hive keeper comes out of the manhole, that's the first moment in the series where you're like, okay, something like some Hideo Kojima shit's about to go down here.
I was going more David Lynch, but
or David Lynch, whatever. It's Japanese, Western, the same thing.
They are kind of blood. They're like brothers from another country. Yeah, that's true.
but it's just like, okay, here we go, and then the series just starts over at next episode, and it's cool. It's kind of like you said, part of the secret sauce to this series. I loved it, but at the same time, after 3 episodes of it, I think the only thing that really kept me going on episode 3 is when Pietro came back and they did the hoodwink Anya with.
I don't think Pietro came back till episode 5.
No, I thought he comes back in 3.
No, it was like episode 5 or maybe even 6. It was not episode 3.
No, that's what it was. What's her name? Somebody reveals to Wanda that her brother died.
Oh yeah, that was
the
fucking
Ultron attack.
That was Monica Rambeau.
Yeah, so like when that happened, that was like the next thing in episode 3 for me, where I was like, okay, it was kind of like the beekeeper thing. I was like, here we go again. She gets thrown out of the town or whatever, There was just, how long are those episodes? 45 minutes?
Dude, this is one of the weird things about Disney Plus television shows. They range, like they take these concept shows that are genre shows that typically, if it were back in the 90s or the 2000s, these shows would have been 45 minutes long, period. All of them uniform, an hour show, 45 minutes of content, 15 minutes of commercials. That's how it worked. That's how it was. Disney Plus is so loosey-goosey with their like, it's so weird. Just like Mandalorian. There are episodes of Mandalorian that were like 28 minutes long, and then there were some that were 48 minutes long. WandaVision is the exact same way. There were episodes that were 30 minutes, and there were episodes that were a fucking hour. It's all over the place.
Yeah. It just seemed like episode 1 through 3 was this huge gap for me, because I always just kind of binge series. Like I waited for WandaVision to come out completely, and then I watched it. It just felt like episode 1 through 3 was like the longest part of the series for me.
Weird. Interesting. I think this might actually point to how strong this show might actually be. Is I think we like it for different reasons. Because I honestly, the first episode of this show, I thought was fire. I like when he has his boss come over with the wife, and like,
oh dude, totally.
Wanda's in the kitchen doing her bewitched shit, and then it culminates with this dinner where he starts to choke and he like starts to repeat himself like a glitch in the Matrix, and Vision has to save him with his superpowers. That was such an amazing first episode of a television show, in my opinion. It could have gone in think of all the directions that show could have gone in from that moment, from the end of episode 1. It could have gone in 50 different fucking directions.
No doubt. Episode 1's really good. I think I misspoke. Episode 2 is the one where the beekeeper comes out of the manhole. So
I
it's
think it
just
was
like
2 or 3, but yeah, it's around there.
it's at the end. I think it's at the end of the episode 2 because episode 2 is the one with the magic show, right? Like the episode, I think episode 2 is what
yeah.
I'm really griping about, to be
The
honest.
magic
Episode 2
where
is
Vision
crap.
was drunk, right? That was actually pretty funny.
Yeah. Harkness is like doing some shit, making him seem drunk or whatever. Like
that was pretty awesome.
it was all right. Like honestly, I almost fell asleep though. So I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then when the radio started talking to her, because that's the shit that drew me in with this series.
Yes.
Like the whole time like watching the series, I'm like, I want something to be cool again in Marvel. Like I always want to see something new that's cool, a new baddie. Give me something. And you know, that little every time the radio spoke out to her, every time she saw some weird anomaly, she would reset reality, or what you think she would be resetting reality. That was cool. That's the thing that stood out to me in the series.
Yeah. Yeah, the esoteric nature of the beginning of this show really drew me in. Like I said, the first episode, I was ecstatic. When I finished the first episode, I was like, oh man, this is way better than I was expecting. This is not the kind of bullshit, like Captain Marvel type shit that I've been seeing lately. This is like, we're talking about some real heavy, deep shit here. And then I was really disappointed when episode 4, I think, whenever it goes to Rambo, when it goes to her backstory and it's all about Sword for an episode, and basically WandaVision ends. Basically, WandaVision has 3 initial episodes, then it ends for a couple episodes, and they just go straight to Sword. And I thought that was painful, man. I hated the Sword B plot. Did you like it?
Well, I don't think they've ever done Sword justice.
No.
Well, I
Sword
think Marvel Comics isn't doing Marvel Comics justice anymore. But like what all this stuff is based on, back when it was actually cool to read comics, they just haven't done that form of what I'm thinking Sword, or how I'm thinking of Sword justice. Like it's just I don't think it will ever get there with like. Now this might be a little anti-PC, but back when Nick Fury, back when Nick Fury was white, and I'm not saying the black Fury was bad.
Did I say Black Fury?
Nick Fury is the badass. All right, don't get me wrong.
I love Samuel. All right, he's my boy.
I love Samuel, and I also like Black Nick Fury before he was based on Samuel's likeness. You know, like that's cool and everything. He dope. I love the whole lineage with that. But there was a time when Nick Fury was white, and like that Sword was a lot more like LA Noir and grittier, and like just like some really cool shit. It was a lot more mysterious back then too. So it's just like when you see Sword in, WandaVision, no slight on WandaVision, great series. It's just like, God, this is such a clown cart operation. Yeah. Like this is supposed to be like the, like Q level fucking level 13 area 51
section
organization that got all the badass shit, like the antimatter guns and stuff, and you're telling me fucking Karen at the secretary desk is fucking making sure Monica Rambeau doesn't bust through the door and have a strong woman moment. Like, what the fuck?
It was so cringy. All of the Sword stuff was so cringy. It was the entire Sword B plot was like this weird SJW fantasy of like, at the very top is old Whitey, like this mean cis white male who just is doing things that we don't like, and every single other person in the organization except for him is a hip SJW friendly person that's like, no, we need to take down the patriarchy. And it's so transparent from the very beginning, and it takes you out of it from the get-go. There's no good writing. The character of what is that guy's name even?
You're talking about the character?
The FBI director, who is clearly just an SJW punching bag. Like he was written to be a punching bag.
Dude, he's cookie cutter too. Like
that's so bad.
He's like the ex good guy got the promotion while the person that deserved it was away.
Yeah. He stole
like
it.
it's so yeah, it's like white man stole the job. Like it was so
It's the backstory
clear
to
but,
KFC,
yeah.
dude. The story that you hear about KFC is that like this genius black person invented the KFC recipe, and then some white slave owner like murked him and stole the recipe and created KFC based on it. That's like the urban legend. And when you look at this fucking storyline with Sword,
did that rumor just start popping up this year? Like,
oh
what?
no, that's been dude. I heard that in college, before, like when the internet was still 1.0. This was like this is a very old story about the KFC subterfuge. I swear to God, the storyline with Sword was based on that. Like the FBI director, Old Whitey, he was clearly the guy who stole the KFC recipe from the Rambo family.
Well,
and Monica came to get revenge.
Sidebar, I believe it. I mean, I totally believe it. Ain't no white man come up with that fucking recipe. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, I'm not endorsing either. Yeah, for sure.
Like, as soon as you hear that story, it's like, well, of course. It's like, duh. like, of course, like, when was this recipe created? Of course, a white man took it from a fucking black man. Like, they were oppressed back then.
Yeah, it's just like when we heard that two white cis males stole the storyline for The Matrix from a powerful black woman, and like it's this exact same thing. And then
I thought it was powerful Indian woman.
No, she's black. It is a black woman.
You sure it's not a black Indian woman?
Maybe. I don't know.
This could be the most powerful form of color we've ever come
It may be
across.
Vice President Kamala Harris, for all I know. She may have written the Matrix, man.
You mean Kamala La La La?
She may have written the Matrix. And, but it's funny because as soon as that happens, the Wachowski brothers are the Wachowski sisters, and they're very brave. And, you know, maybe they stole the recipe for KFC.
Why did you say it like that?
You know what? Maybe they stole the recipe for KFC. You know what? Maybe they ran over some person with a car. It doesn't matter because they're stunning and brave, and they're the women of the year, according to ESPN.com. And we're going to move on from there, Broadcaster Nickels, because as you know, the show trailed off a bit in the middle, as far as I'm concerned. But what never trailed off is the CG. The CG.
It's okay.
The movie quality CG is now standard for Disney Plus. Do you believe that? Because every Disney Plus show I've watched so far has had movie quality production for the CG.
Well, see, you're talking to the broadcaster right now, and the broadcaster, he predicts things, and I'd say I got about 86% chance of success. And right now, I'm going to tell you, this is another hoodwink by Disney. What they're doing with Disney Plus is giving you the good shit. They're putting that fucking hit of heroin in your vein. They're getting you hooked. They're saying, come to Disney Plus. We got the good shit. And then, when they get done with their little run of Marvel miniseries, and they move on, and when all the... I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but when the theaters open up, because I don't know, communism's probably going to take over. Anyways, nonetheless, when reality potentially starts opening back up, you know, they're going to move back into their traditional phase 5 or 4 or whatever, 8 they're on. And then are they going to, after all that's done, they're going to say, yeah, remember when we did all those runs of miniseries on Disney Plus? We're going to do that again 3 years later. And people are like, yeah, actually, we left that platform because you guys didn't give us anything after that run of miniseries, you know? I know it was a long-winded way of saying that, but it's just like, I feel like that's what they're going to do. They're just going to do this little run of miniseries, get everybody hooked on Disney Plus, and then it's going to end, and they're just going to have their bullshit. Yeah. All their old movies that give you censorship warnings and maybe some, you know, some okay stuff that people might want to check in on. But is it enough to keep a subscription like Netflix? or Hulu or Amazon Prime or whatever that have pretty much all the existing television IP and original content that people care about. I mean, Disney's a little late to the show. There's HBO, Hulu, Netflix. I mean, the only reason people are going to Disney Plus is because of original content. And I'm not arguing. It's been fucking good so far. Mandalorian was out of the fucking park. But now with the Gina Carano controversy, with all the Kathleen Kennedy stuff, and with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, there's all these rumors and chit chatter, and the public now knows about it, with just turmoil being in the studio, that it's like people are talking about Mandalorian being canceled now.
Wow.
So it's like, that's not, even if that's not even remotely true, that's not good on a PR base, So I can't, like, how long are they going to keep up the charade of being able to, like, put a Star Wars show on the stick, or fucking put a Marvel show on the stick and be like, come to Disney Plus? I just think it can't last that long. And then what happens to Disney Plus as a platform is it can't compete. It can't fucking even come close to competing with even Hulu.
Yeah.
And Hulu's the worst out of the other four.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's pretty clear what's going on. Marvel movies, basically starting with Avengers Endgame and going to all the way to the launch of Disney Plus, started to go deeply downhill very quickly. The public sentiment was bad. The magic of Marvel was starting to fade. They were announcing a new MCU that was going to get rid of Captain America. It was going to get rid of Iron Man. It was going to get rid of all the characters you liked and replace them with, let's just say, more culturally appropriate versions for the current climate of the political internet 3.0. Are we in the internet 3.0? Or are we still in, like, the 2.5x? I don't know. I don't know if we skipped into full Aldous Huxley Brave New World quite yet, but we're getting close.
It's a good book.
But I'll just say that I think that they saw this, and these companies, while they are capable of taking hits to the face to sell their political ideologies, they do want to make money. And I think they realized, we're not making money right now. No one's buying this shit. So what are we going to do? We're going to launch Disney Plus. We're going to give Jon Favreau a Star Wars. We're going to give Matt Shakman a fucking WandaVision. We're going to do all these things. We're going to bring these pristine, awesome versions of what people actually wanted that they thought they were going to get. We're going to get them all buttered up. And then once they've accepted Disney Plus as the supreme place for this type of content, we're going to start bringing out the Captain Marvel, the television series type shit. We're going to start bringing out the Batwoman type shit. We're going to start bringing out this low-grade SJW schlock once we've secured your eyeballs, because you're going to trust us. So I believe firmly that after Loki and after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we are going to get a very different lineup of Disney Plus Marvel properties.
Well, I have no doubt. And I think that's just going to be the end of Marvel. I think that's going to be the first shot in the chest that's going to cause a fatal wound. The trick, not to get off topic too much, but the secret sauce to comics and new characters and progression of existing characters was, I think, the fatigue in the comics. There, back in the early days, comics, and when not everything had been done yet, of course, but when fatigue happened with a character, there was this opportune moment, like you would see like in a traditional RPG, like sometimes they used it as like a time phase, or like there was a hero moment where they got upgraded armor, or they pulled the sword out of the stone or whatever and they became a man. You know, there was this moment where you got a pivotal progression, and you could recognize that as the player or the reader or whatever like that. That Marvel is drastically losing that.
Oh yeah.
In the comics. Like they already did that a long time ago. Like they already did Thor 8 times. They already did Iron Man 8 times. And those 8 times were really fucking cool, don't get me wrong, but on the 8th time they realized their comic numbers were going down. So that's when all these new characters started coming, you know? That's when you started seeing fringe characters really starting to get their own runs, like Moon Knight. And like in Moon Knight's my boy. Moon Knight's my favorite fucking character, right? So I'm not trying to throw shade on Moon Knight, but nonetheless, it's like that's when you started to see characters like this. MCU is a different story. MCU is trying to, you know, like you'd say, getting a little too woke, and fucking these characters that they're bringing in are the fringe characters of the comics that no one even fucking cared about, and they're trying to put them up on these platforms.
Well,
right?
The comics don't matter anymore. Let's be real honest about this. All of the comic book nerds that liked all this original shit, that's not what this is being made for anymore. Current comic book movies are being made for the people that never read a comic, just happened to go to this Marvel movie and decide, oh, it's cool to like comics. All these people are talking about how they used to like the original comics.
Pop culture.
So now I'm going to pretend like I'm a fan of this. And it became like, you remember when Legion Season 2 came out and John Hamm narrated the intros?
Fucking
remember
amazing.
That?
It was amazing.
And he talked about the psychology of the human mind and how like this thought can transfer from person to person and just become this virus of thought. That's what we have with the Marvel Universe right now. All of the current fans of the Marvel Universe have never read a comic that came out before the year 2000. I'm sure they've read some comics that came out in the year 2013, but they haven't read an actual old school comic of these characters they claim to be fans of. All the old school fans, they are being systematically shunned and eliminated out of the community and branded as heretics, given a scarlet letter. This is no longer an OG fan base. The fan base pretends to be OG, but they are the replacements.
They are the replacements. It's kind of weird too. Like, that's kind of a new anomaly, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, these surrogate fan bases. Is that appropriate?
Yeah,
is that
perfect.
Term?
That is perfect.
You know, like,
yes.
It's that like, yeah, it's this weird thing where something gets co-opted, like something traditionally would, but the actual thing that's co-opted is the fan base itself. It's not the IP, but they co-opt the fan base, and then through the fan base, they project what they want, and it just like kills like it kills whatever. It's this it's almost like a form of war. It's weird.
It is.
Maybe we're getting something that gets banned here.
It's called cultural Marxism.
Yeah. But yeah, Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the fan base is shit. The studios are shit. This is an anomaly. I think we both agree that this is an anomaly, probably a honey trap to get people like, oh, Marvel movies aren't a joke meant for some weird SJW cause. They're actually trying to make good content. That is what you would think based off of The Mandalorian and what you think of based on WandaVision. I'm assuming it's what you'd think based off of Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just based off of the trajectory we're on right now with Disney Plus. I just feel like this is this first wave that is just designed to build trust.
Absolutely.
So that they can pull the carpet, but you'll be there. They'll have you by then, and it won't matter. That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, I really loved the character of Agatha as a premise, as a plot point, and the actress that plays her.
Yeah, I forget what's her name. I should know her name now. I've seen her in I don't know how many fucking movies.
I don't know her name, but I have seen her. Yeah, I've seen her in a shit ton of movies. She was in Anchorman. She was in Step Brothers. You know what she was best in? The Goods, Live Hard and Sell Hard. Do you remember that with dude. Ari from the Entourage? Dude, she was so good in that. She was also in Parks and Recreation, and she was in a few other like she's been in a shitload of movies I've seen.
Man,
talk about funny women. You always hear this meme like, "Oh, you're a misogynist. You just don't think any women are funny." Blah blah blah. No, I think she's funny. And the ironic thing is Agatha is not a comedic character in this show. She's the fucking villain. And she was great.
What? I'm trying to remember her fucking name. It's Catherine something. I don't know.
I don't remember her name, but I've seen her in so much. I've seen her in at least like 10 movies and probably 5 television shows. I've seen her in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I like her in everything. I've never seen her in anything where I was like, I don't like her. I've liked her in literally everything I've ever seen.
What was that spelling bee movie with the guy from Arrested Development? God, Jason Bateman. Again, I love it because there's like multiple sex scenes with them, and like there's just the comical point in the sex scene is like he makes eye contact with her and she's just like immediately slaps him in the face and she's like, "Don't look at me," and he's like, "What?" And she's like, "Don't look at me," and he's like, okay, I'm not gonna look at you. And starts fucking her still, and then at towards the end of the movie they have another sex scene and he hits her in the face and he's like, "Don't look at me," and she just doesn't look at him. He's like, "I get it now." I've never forgotten that. That's what I always remember her for.
Yeah. I don't remember the name of that movie, but I've definitely seen it and I liked her in that. I think
it was just Spelling Bee.
It might have been. I don't remember, but I definitely remember her, Jason Bateman, with her in that context. So I believe I saw that movie and liked it, whatever it was. One of the things I really liked about her in WandaVision is that she is central to the main twist of the show. And it's most twists I see coming. I'd say at least 50-50. I see twists coming. Maybe sometimes 70-30. I don't know. It's not a good rate though. I don't like it. I don't like seeing how many twists coming that I see. This one took me by surprise. I did not think that she was the villain of the show until they revealed her as the villain of the show. I'm like, oh shit. And the thing is it wasn't a cheap way to do it. So one way to do that so that you don't see it coming is to give you no clues. So there's really no way you'd ever see it coming that way. They actually gave some fucking clues early on that I missed. I thought that was really good. Like, it's not the cheap way to do it. They gave you clues, but you still didn't see it coming. I didn't anyway.
Well, I was going to say any non-Marvel fan knows like the perspective you're talking about, but anybody that knows anything about Scarlet Witch knows the name Agatha Harkness. And so immediately when you know her name's Agatha Harkness, you know who she is. Like,
but they didn't reveal her name to be Agatha till they revealed her as being the villain, right?
No.
Wasn't her name something else until that point?
No, even in the credit, like even in like the weird show credits, you know, like where everyone got their intro, they would show Agatha come through the door or whatever and do the typical like weird like neighbor intro or whatever, and it'd be like, as Agatha Harkness, you know, the title would say.
Are you sure? Because I thought it called her something else. Okay, I'm tripping then. Okay.
Yeah, so it definitely, but you wouldn't know who Agatha Harkness is, you know?
Yeah, so. I've never seen the source material for this comic, so I had no idea But
she's just an iconic villain for Scarlet Witch.
was she introduced in the comics that this show was based on? Or is she from an earlier run?
She's in multiple runs. She's a spanning villain across Scarlet Witch's time as a character.
Do you know when she was first unveiled? Like her first comic? Like what year it was? I'm curious.
Man, I think 1970 or so. I think she was originally fun fact. I think she was actually originally before Scarlet. She was connected to Scarlet Witch. She was connected to the Fantastic Four.
Really?
Yeah, she was in like the 100th annual, I think, of Fantastic Four, maybe a couple issues before. I'm not sure, but that was like her first
That's
OG thing. But back then, man, you're talking about the golden age of comics versus the modern day age of comics. Like there was a huge like complete like canon shift almost of where they at one point, which so that Agatha Harkness is not that really the Agatha Harkness that the show's Agatha is, the Agatha Harkness that the show is based on is more like the one I kind of am familiar with. So, yeah,
I had a lot of Fantastic Four comics actually. It's funny. My favorite comic book was the X-Men, and I had a lot of X-Men comics when I was growing up, but I had more Fantastic Four comics, even though I didn't like Fantastic Four as much. But for some reason, it was just easier to get them for cheap. As you know, we grew up in a household that valued the cheapness of things. So when I would obtain artifacts such as comic books, it often revolved around how cheap I could get them. And for some reason, I was just able to get a lot of Fantastic Four comics. I don't remember Agatha, but it was a long time ago. So maybe I'm just forgetting, or maybe I never had that comic. I don't know.
Yeah. Keep in mind, I mean, she was a veteran character before you were born.
Yeah.
Way before, I mean, she could have had a hiatus with the Fantastic Four that because by the time you were reading Fantastic Four, she would have switched over to her mainstay as being Scarlet Witch's villain. So that's probably why you don't know about her.
Maybe. Yeah, a lot of the Fantastic Four comics I had were from the 80s, not the 70s, so that might be why. But what'd you think about the ending? Because I thought it was really hit and miss, and I thought the hit was really hard and the miss was really hard. What are your overall thoughts on the ending of WandaVision?
I mean, it was kind of a letdown, but at the same time, all this leads into their AAA budget movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't too let down. I should have, when I was let down, I should say, I was like, yeah, I should have saw that coming, like, of course it's going to lead into more, this is fucking the Marvel universe. There's going to be no meaningful conclusion to any of this shit. So, but for what it was, I liked it. I wish Agatha would have been you know what? I'll take that back. Agatha was good. Marvel really struggles with their villains, and while Agatha's not like S tier, I will say she's well done. She's not fucking Mickey Rourke from fucking Iron Man 2.
Don't you dare insult Iron Man 2.
Whiplash.
The original Tiger King. That's what I call him.
The original Tiger King.
The original Tiger King.
But yeah, it is what it is. But I think the real letdown was Pietro. For me. I think that type of shit is just...
It's cheesy.
And it's not the first time these fuckers have pulled shit like this. And it's kind of just at this point really starting to spit in the face of some of the more like diehard fans that really pay attention to the stuff that are comic, like old school comic nerds. Like they did it with the the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. Remember Kingsley
Yeah.
was the Mandarin? Remember that shit they pulled? It's the same thing with Pietro. It's the same thing. Like, you just see a portrait from Eric Boner, Witness Protection Program. It's a pretty good joke. Don't get me wrong. I laughed. But, but at the same time, it's just like, is that really what it was? And then everyone he was talking about on the internet, and even the writer, I forget, someone responded to the fans, IGN, you know, middleman's the whole thing. Blah 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 responds to the fans' reactions.
That's a great impression of a Vox reporter.
Yeah, and it's just, I remember reading it, and it was like their excuse was, it's like, he facilitated a coping mechanism. And it was just, you know, it was just like, you fucking people. You know, it's just like, I was pissed when I thought you were just trying to troll me. Now I'm more pissed that I realize you guys are fucking terrible, terrible people. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just really pissed with the whole Pietro thing. It was just another example of them saying, hey, that thing that everybody wants. Here's the carrot. Here's the trash. Boom. It's just like, fuck you.
Yeah. It was uncalled for. It was just the whole thing was just really cheesy. Like, the way they played it was just pure cheese. And as soon as I realized, I giggled at Eric Boner. Don't get me wrong, I giggled at the name, but the aftermath is what it is. Like, they 100% just played you for a fool, and
that
they're insulting your intelligence.
By the way, that actor too that plays Quicksilver, Pietro, nails it. Dude, they need to get that guy back. He's fucking gold. I don't know what they're thinking, trying to write that guy off for some meaningful intro later. Like, get real, guys. You guys need talent right now. And Quicksilver's some talent. Get him in there. Get him moving, okay?
Long live the X-Force.
Damn, man. Talk about a better Marvel universe. Get some X-Force movies.
Dude, I honestly thought when he showed up in WandaVision, I'm like, oh shit. This is their seed that they're planning for the new X-Men, Marvel-owned X-Men franchise they're about to launch from Disney. And that this whatever this is with him in WandaVision is the seed of that. And for them to go the direction they did was just like, no.
I could already see it now, right? A white and black Deadpool starring Ryan Reynolds on a plane going through Zimbabwe in the middle of the night, right? Fucking Psylocke played by Asa Akira. Fucking just like
that is the casting of the decade, Broadcaster Nickels. Go on.
I got ideas for days, dude. You know, just like the team, they got Phantom X just fucking in the back. Who knows who play him, dude? Maybe David Duchovny. Yeah, David Duchovny, dude. Let's do David Duchovny, dude. Phantom X, dude.
Hollywood, are you listening to this? Hire this man right now.
All right, dude. Like, we just got hitters in this plane because let's be honest, there's been a shit ton of people who've been part of the X-Force. Maybe who's Clint Eastwood's kid? Get him to play fucking Wolverine, and fucking.
He wouldn't be a bad choice. That's a good.
Put him. Oh, dude, there's tons of people that think he'd be a good Wolverine, but nonetheless, put him on the plane, man. Just, dude, think about that, bro. Fucking let Psylocke go down first so everyone can stare ass. Director's choice. Fucking just pan to the ass for about a good clean 3 seconds. Wolverine jumps second. Deadpool says some joke that's beyond my league, you know. But nonetheless, you get where I'm going.
I do. But none of that will ever happen, Broadcaster Nickels. For we are living in the darkest timeline. A timeline where, while it was kind of cool that Wanda steals Agatha's little rune trick and uses on her on such a meta level on her little red cage of chaos magic that creates this town of hers. I liked that. It was kind of cheesy. It actually reminded me of SG-1 a little bit. Like had like this weird like sort of like sci-fi channel B movie sort of like feel to it when you start to see those runes materialize around the octagon or hexagon or whatever the fuck gon that city was within. I liked that. It was cool, and I liked the way that she kind of turned Agatha's magic against her. Like that was clever writing. I like that. But the other part of the ending was old Whitey, what was Hayward? That was his name. FBI Director Hayward. Then it goes to him just being arrested for being a cis white male. Basically, it's just like it just shows him being arrested, and then it shows fucking Rambo like talking to some alien, being like, the alien's like, "Guess what, Rambo? You're going up to space again. You're gonna talk to Captain Marvel, and everything's cool again." And it's just like, what? Like, did you really have to? It's almost like the director of Captain Marvel had evidence on Matt Shakman, and he's like, "Hey, Matt, I'm going to release this PP tape unless you tie this into Captain Marvel." Because the tie-ins to Captain Marvel were so nonsensical and just so tacked on. It was sad to watch that part, because I actually was enjoying the ending to that part, and I'm just like, okay, cool. I'm glad that we get to just cement this Captain Marvel tie-in at the very end of the show, when I feel like the Captain Marvel tie-in almost sunk the show halfway in when they started to focus on Rambo, like around episode 4 or 5. That's when I originally started to not like the show for a few episodes.
You know why they were doing that?
Evidence
Because
on Matt Shakman.
No, dude.
That's what I think.
Nah, dude.
No.
I mean, Brie Larson hit me up, but no one likes you. Okay, no, you're not hot right now. Socially, you are hot. Physically, that's all I'll say.
I'll say right now, and I'm not ashamed to say this. In Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Brie Larson was a smoke show. She was a hard 10. I don't know what the fuck happened to her.
Dude, she's still good looking. I don't know what you're talking about.
All I see is like the evil aura emanating from her skin.
I pierced through that. I have a fucking silver sword casted from Lancaster fucking cross, dude, and I'm telling you right now, my shit slays right through that.
Well, Broadcaster Nickels, as you know, most television shows get more than one season. It's very rare that a TV show just gets one season and is canceled. Almost always they get a second season. Even if the show sucks, they're like, well, let's see if, just to make sure. Just to make sure, we'll give them a second season. I've heard rumors that WandaVision is not going to get a second season, and that the whole point of it was to set up the movie coming out very soon with one Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, Doctor Strange 2.
What do you think about that? Do you think, A, that this whole thing was just orchestrated to set up that movie because waning interest in the Marvel Cinematic Universe has sort of been bubbling over? Or do you think there will be a second season of WandaVision and it's just, it's incidental? Like, yeah, we're going to tie this into Doctor Strange, but we also have our own vision for the show, and it's not like a cog of a wheel of a greater thing, but it's our show. Like, we're doing a show. What do you think about that?
No, I don't think there's going to be another season. I think it definitely is going to be a one-off for sure. But
me too.
It easily is setting up the whirlpool event, if you will, that's going to allow all these characters to come back / merge into the same universe. There is, because everyone's waiting for it. There's a flashpoint that's been burning to happen for like 8 years now. Everyone wants the Fantastic Four in the MCU. Everyone wants the X-Men in the MCU. Everyone wants the fringe characters to get a spotlight. Everyone wants the Netflix characters that they didn't have the rights to make an appearance now. Like, people literally want Charlie Cox's Daredevil to be the Daredevil.
Nah, we gotta get Batfleck back. We gotta get Batfleck back.
but nonetheless, it's just like there's so many angles at which they still need to introduce new characters, and I think because of all of the really heavy requests from fans and the pressure just because of how successful some of these actors were with their characters, that they just want them in the MCU. But they, like, Kevin Feige's good at what he does. You say what you say, but he's dedicated to like making something cohesive no matter what it is. And like, I think that's what Doctor Strange / WandaVision is building up to, is because they're both the premier magic users. They both dabble in the dark arts and the like other dimensions and time shifting and shit like that. So they're primed, and they already hinted to it with the Fox's version of Quicksilver, and other hints and Easter eggs in WandaVision as well, with like her two sons, Wiccan and Billy. Oh no, Billy is Wiccan. I forget what the other son is, but nonetheless, another speedster. Nonetheless, they've hinted to this type of stuff. So I think they're going to have a Flashpoint event where some type of dimensional rift happens, and like it's like a, God, what was it in the comics? Secret event. God, Secret Wars. That's what it was. And the Beyonders were colliding all variances of the multiverse into each other to just destroy everything. And Doctor Doom, like, was
that's
just
what I'm
like,
waiting for is Doctor Doom.
Shit, me too. Doctor Doom was like, nah, dude, I'm gonna take Doctor Strange and who was it, Miracle Man, with me, and we're just gonna be like, you know what, Beyonders, your power is my power, bitch, via dark arts, and then I'm gonna take the tiny patches of reality that you had yet devoured and form them into one reality that I will maintain with my power that I stole from you alone. And that's the basis of the of that plot. But nonetheless, I feel like that's the type of thing they're working towards, where they can take all these IPs that have been floating. I almost said IPAs.
Broadcaster Nickels.
But all these thirsty? IPs just floating around, that they're just like, how are we going to fucking integrate all this shit? Like, I think the answer is a Secret Wars type event.
Yeah, Secret Wars. So, I've heard about Secret Wars many times. Secret Wars, I think, came out right after I stopped reading comics. I think it literally...
Secret Wars has happened 3 times. It's been a 3 era event. Secret Wars happened before you even started reading comics.
Really?
And then part 2 happened, I think, around when you were reading comics.
What year?
Then I think maybe the 80s or 90s is when Secret Wars part 2 came out.
Early 90s Secret Wars?
The second Secret Wars came out around the 80s or 90s, and then the third Secret Wars came out around 2015 when I got, like, it literally was the first run of comics I picked up. Was Secret Wars, the third coming of Jesus. And that's to be specific, the iteration of Secret Wars that I was just talking about with Doctor Doom and Strange and Miracle Man acquiring the power of the Beyonders and stuff. That was the run I have. So, like, the OG Secret Wars, that is not how it starts, but that was just that part of Secret Wars I was talking about.
Interesting. Yeah, if there was a Secret Wars that came out in the early 90s / late 80s, I was never a part of that. I never had any of those comic books that I recall. So that's
Yeah.
interesting. It's very possible that it did come out then, and I just didn't get them because, like I said, the way I procured comic books was not just like, oh, I'm gonna go to the comic book store and just buy whatever's new. Yeah, no, it was, hey, what can my dad get free from some person at a garage sale? That's how I got comic books. So it wasn't always bleeding edge.
A lot of people get comic books.
That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, I think that I have a few plot holes in this show that I'm not sure if they're plot holes or not, and I want to talk to you about these. First up, this comes from the Halloween episode. I think it was episode 6, maybe, when Vision is out on patrol, quote unquote. He can't go out with his family because he's out on patrol for Halloween. And he goes all the way to the edge of town and he finds Agatha sitting in her car at an intersection. Now, at this point, we don't know who Agatha is, or at least I didn't. Maybe if you read the source material, you know that this is Agatha. I didn't. And he sees her and he's just like trying to interact with her, and she's like glitched out in the Matrix or whatever. And then he touches her, or she like says, "Oh, you're dead," or whatever. And then he touches her head and does his little thing where he like removes Wanda's programming, and she's like, "Oh, let me out of here," blah blah blah. You know, what was that all about? Given Agatha's true identity, because how could Vision not know that she was lying to him? Like he touched her brain. Like he did the little thing where he unlocks that person and they start acting like a normal person that isn't being mind controlled by Wanda. And she acted like a normal person who was living a normal life that wasn't being controlled by Wanda. If she was pretending, how did Vision not realize that she was pretending? Like he touched her brain. Like, it doesn't make sense to me that he wasn't like, oh, this bitch is a witch and she's like up to some shit here. He just thought she was an NPC.
Yeah. Well, that was a plot hole all the way up to the point to when Vision and Wanda had their little discussion, and Vision asked her directly what he was, and she said that he was the little piece of the shattered stone. I forget what stone it is, but essentially she insinuated that there was some form of, or some piece of that stone that lived in her somehow. And when she had her little manic episode and created a pseudo reality town or whatever, that her expression of Vision came from that piece. And therefore, he is not just a puppet, but a real boy. You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of the analogy. Like, I feel like that's what they were trying to go for. So that's why when Vision kind of starts rebelling against the system and then goes on that patrol and then comes into Agatha, which you later find out is supposed to be in control of the whole thing, taking advantage of Wanda's episode, if you will. It makes more sense after all that, you know, after you find that out, because you realize, oh, okay, this isn't just some fake version of Vision that's controlled by Wanda or Agatha. He does have some form of sentience and control.
And that's why I believe this is a plot hole, because
why is that?
Why Agatha straight up acts like she's being controlled by Wanda, like an NPC, like any NPC in the show. She is being controlled by Wanda. If he has his own like self-consciousness, he's not being controlled by Agatha, he's not being controlled by Wanda, and he has this power to like stick his hand on someone's head and like activate their true self.
You don't think Agatha has protocols to counteract that?
So what do you think? So what your theory is that when he does that, she just pretends to be an NPC to like throw him off?
Yeah, well, that's
Is that what you think?
exactly what she does do, because in like the ninth, or I think the 8th or 9th episode, when she's explaining pretty much the villain, you know, doing her like, this is how I'm going to win type thing.
Mhm.
And she was doing her past, going through all the points where it was pretty obvious who she was. It showed that moment with her and Vision, and she kind of looks at the camera. She does the fourth wall breaking thing like Deadpool and winks to the camera, like, I'm going to play along. I'm going to let Vision think he's in control. Like, clearly that's what they illustrated. But I mean, just from what I know about Agatha, like I didn't even second guess it. She's like a super powerful witch. Like, obviously she's taking advantage of Wanda, who is like the second coming of Jesus, witch Jesus. So I mean, like, if she can take advantage of that chick, obviously I think she can handle a little bit of Vision and not his prime.
All right. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm just underestimating Agatha's power, but it just felt weird to me that Vision didn't detect any deception from her, because
yeah. Well, I think Vision was having problems with his own thought process.
maybe. And my other sort of gripe is the original Vision that comes in the last couple episodes, the White Vision. Now, White Vision is supposed.
Why do you have to say it like that?
Ale Vision. Yeah, he is definitely a member of the KKK, and I want to know some basic. I want to know some answers to some basic questions, Broadcaster Nickels.
It's a community kids club, spelled with a K.
Why is he white? Why was he so easy to rebuild? If it was so easy to rebuild him, why did Wanda need to do all this shit? Like, it makes no sense. Like, if Vision,
well, Wanda never took him. Remember?
Right, but if the whole premise of this show is that Vision is dead, and she can't bring him back to life, and she's powerless, and she wants Vision back, and she goes to this house that Vision bought for her, apparently, before Infinity War, and then she does her little Uchiha scream and creates the Chaos Magic Town. Why would she do that if you could just easily put Vision back together and just reactivate him so easily? It makes no sense.
Because it wouldn't be the Vision that. So they explain it in the series too. You know, like the Vision that we know of is two things coming together: the AI Jarvis that Tony Stark made, and the synthoid that Ultron made to transfer his consciousness into to do world domination. What they resurrected was just Ultron's technology, the host body. Jarvis, the AI that like turned into a real boy via the Soul Stone or whatever stone it was dead. That's what Wanda was projecting
in the series.
Yeah, and that's what Wanda was saying to Vision later on in the series, where she was like, "You're like my projection of you, but you're more because there's a piece of the stone in me, and now you're a real boy. You're acting like a real boy." She doesn't say that part. That's just kind of what they kind of insinuate, and that's my joke of it. But that's essentially what they're trying to say. But the White Vision. The right Vision, essentially just the synthoid body Vision is just a dead weapon, essentially, kind of like what that FBI agent Wayward or whatever says. You know, he's just like, that was his whole point in the beginning. He's just like, what he's trying to tell Wanda. He's just like, Wanda, your husband's dead. Like, That's just the $4 billion trillion technology thing that we're trying not to let go of. Like, you could cry all you want, we're going to put them together and turn them on, and that's not going to be your husband no matter what. So why do you want us to bury, a fucking trillion gazillion dollar technology?
Okay, I get it. So basically, Capcom better sue somebody, because this is the plot of Mega Man X2, is it not? They rebuild Zero into an evil version without the original Zero consciousness.
I think that's just an evil chip. But yeah, I get where you're going. It still is the original Zero. And actually, to be real, if we're doing real Mega Man lore, Mega Man X,
we're doing
right
real
now,
Mega Man
Mega
lore.
Man
Let's break it down.
Zero was a villain. If you remember correctly, Zero was an asshole, then turned into a good guy at the end, and then Mega Man X2 gets cut up.
Janice.
And they're like,
he's like
nah,
Magus
dude.
/ Janice from Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, like the Akatsu's came in and they cut him up bad. They were just like, how dare you try to be a good guy? You're bad. Here's a chip.
Yeah. Was it just a chip? I thought they
it matters
him,
how
but
you
his consciousness was gone, sort of like what you're saying with Vision.
You had a choice. He gets cut, so at the end of 1, he turns good, right, and helps you against Vile, and then gets destroyed. And then number 2, at the beginning, he's destroyed by these Akatsuki fucking mavericks, right? And the choice is there's these special, every time you beat a boss, there's a mini boss or something. The other variant of a boss that you've already beat shows up on another level in an intermediate stage area of that level. And if you beat him, you get a part of Zero. And if you do all that, you don't have to fight an evil version of Zero at the end of Mega Man X2.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he was black, right? Black Zero?
The evil version of him, I think, was black.
Yeah.
I don't know because I'm a huge fan of X4, and I know that's where Black Zero was playable for the first time. And I just don't know if I'm making that up in my head, because Black Zero might be unique to X4. I'm not sure.
I feel like Black Zero debuted if you didn't rebuild Zero and Sigma took him over or whatever.
Could be true.
Yeah, it's either way. This has nothing to do with WandaVision. Moving along, Broadcaster Nickels, as you know, one of the best parts of WandaVision was the commercials that aired in all the good episodes, aka the ones that weren't sword episodes. Every one of those had a commercial based off of the era the episode took place in.
Yeah,
so
they were all hints too.
They were, honestly, the commercials were when we talk about the secret sauce, the commercials were a part of that. My question to you, what was your favorite commercial in WandaVision?
My favorite one?
Your number one. Your boo.
I'm pretty sure it was the Nexus antidepressants in episode 7. That one and Logos paper towels. Those were my favorite. But all of them were hints.
Hints. Interesting.
Yeah, they were all Hideo Kojima. I've said that,
dude, those commercials were 100% Kojima.
They were. But
I'm going to preempt you and say I agree with you before I even hear your point.
Yeah,
I know your point's correct. Go on.
Yeah. I think I've brought this up maybe twice now already, but I've used it as an example at least. Is that in Metal Gear Solid 4, there were these weird commercials that were in the load screens when you started playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they were cigarette ads. Sometimes they were weird PMC ads, literally private military contractor ads, but done in this weird futuristic tech ad form. It's just really weird. It was just some really heady shit. And to this day, I'm not quite sure what they all meant, but they did that in WandaVision. That's what all those advertisements were. It was some really weird, like not fourth wall, but
Fifth wall.
just like just some really weird fucking shit where you kind of had to be in the know to know, and even then, you knew you didn't know. You know,
Yeah.
like
I like that.
you know?
I like the way you put that. Yeah. The commercials. I liked a lot of the commercials. The very first one, like, again, I love the first episode of this show. And the commercial in the first episode was the Stark Industries toast.
The toaster.
Yeah. It was, I think it was actually the Toastmaster 2000, which reminded me of SimCity 2000, which also gave it bonus points for me.
I'm pretty sure it was the Toastmate 2000.
I don't know, but either way, I loved. First of all these commercials have the same two actors playing off each other, the same wife and husband.
Yeah.
And the first one was gold. It was like the husband was like, introducing the toaster that will change your life. Tell me, have you been burning your husband's toast? Has he told you that you're an inferior model and you shouldn't be burning his toast? Well, guess what? We have a model for you that will save your marriage. Like it was like the most overtly 1950s thing I've ever seen on modern television. Like, they did not shy away from the misogyny at all. Like, I remember thinking, this is actually misogynistic. And I don't say that lightly, because everything is quote unquote misogynistic now. This commercial literally was like, they didn't shy away from doing that as like a trope, as like a comedy trope. And I appreciate that in the same way I appreciate the Tim Dillon podcast. Like, it's this thing that you're not allowed to do, but apparently Matt Shakman is allowed to do it because he did it in this first episode, and it was fucking hilarious. And the thing I liked most about it was after they go through the whole spiel about, oh, you can do open-faced cheese bread in this toaster, and you can do this and that. And it shows them put it in the toaster and activate it, and there's this really weird, awkward pause with the wife just kind of sitting there, like, with the camera on her, like, okay, I'm waiting for the toaster to finish. What's going on here? And it was such a pregnant pause in the commercial. And then finally it came up, and it was just like, all done. And then the commercial was over. There was just something really magical about that commercial. And there's something magical about that episode. That being said,
uneasy tension. It's weird. It's
yeah. That being said, that actually isn't my favorite commercial. My favorite commercial is Yo Magic Yogurt. Do you remember this one?
That's the one with the kids, and it's like the Go-Gurt play, right?
Yes. So there's like a little kid. This is all claymation, by the way, which totally 1990s shit. Like, there's just this claymation commercial with this starving kid on an island, and like, this ferocious shark jumps out of the water and like, hey kid, life got you down? Need some protein? Have some yogurt. Have some Yo Magic Yogurt. I was starving to death, but then I found Yo Magic Yogurt. All right, see you later. And he hands him the Yo Magic Yogurt. First of all, this shark looked like a child molester. This shark was sinister. I loved the shark. Like, he was so evil looking. Like, the way he looked at the kid was so sinister. And then the key to why this is my favorite is what happens after he hands him the yogurt. This is some dark shit, dude. He hands him the yogurt, jumps back in the ocean, and it shows the kid trying to open the yogurt to eat it, but he can't get the lid open, and it does like this fast track of time, like the sun and the moon and the sun and the moon, and he just turns into a skeleton unable to open the yogurt because he never had the strength to open the yogurt, and then that's the end of the commercial. Talk about David Lynch. Like, that was
some weird shit, dude.
That was some deep, dark, weird shit, man.
It's like when you played the PT game.
Yes.
And like you heard the phone call, and it's just, or the radio, it's just like, Dad was feeling down. So he came home and he fucking murdered his family. And then the fucking audience claps. Wow.
That's exactly what it's like, yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
Oh, shit. That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, what was your favorite episode of WandaVision?
Well, to be honest, I think it's pretty obvious. I'm a 90s kid. So I think it was episode 5, which was the 90s based up. Well, episode 6. Well, no. Episode 5 was 90-ish. And then episode 6 was like late 90s-ish. But I can't remember which. Yeah, episode 6 was Halloween, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was a Halloween episode. Yeah.
Yeah, so episode 6 probably.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Halloween.
I'm trying to remember what episode 5 was real quick though, because I feel like.
I think that was episode 5 was the one that introduced Pietro or Quicksilver or
Yeah. Is that the one where he spent? Is that the one where he spent most of the time with the kids in the house?
Yes,
because that one was my favorite episode.
That was episode 5, I think.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite episode.
My favorite episode was episode 1, filmed before a live studio audience. It's the furthest away from like my wheelhouse as being a 90s kid, but I'm kind of like an 80s 90s kid. I kind of was a transitionary child, but there's something about that first episode that grabbed me. It was the mystery. It was the way Wanda and Vision interacted with each other in such like a weird, like, we don't know each other, but we know each other. We're married, but we've never met. I'm this person and you're this person, but we have no idea of those people. Like it, and then like marrying it into this weird I Love Lucy sort of Bewitched style sitcom where it culminates with bringing the boss over and like all like the memes like, better not disappoint the boss with a bad dinner. and her going into the kitchen and like doing all of her witchcraft and like all of like the little weird comedic memes. I think that comes from Matt Shakman's comedic pedigree. Like I said earlier, he was on It's Always Sunny. He did The Boys. Like he has this comedic pedigree that he's worked on these shows. And I think that episode 1 was like this weird culmination of his past experience with what we would expect as Marvel fans of a WandaVision sort of television show based off of this source material. I don't know the source material, so I can't say for sure whether or not I'm giving him too much credit. Maybe the comic was the exact same way and he just verbatim just put it on a television screen, maybe. But I felt this undercurrent of this weird dark comedy that totally reminded me of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And on top of that, I loved the casting of the boss and the boss's wife. The boss's wife is the mom from that 70s show.
Yeah.
It was so perfect. And the way that the episode ends with him choking and him saving his life with his powers and then realizing, oh, something is amiss. And like,
that was creepy.
It was, dude. I loved it.
She's just like, stop it. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yes. The repeating verbiage, it had horror movie vibes to it early on. And that's when I say that the show could have gone in 50 different directions. That's what I mean. Like, this first episode set it up in a way where it could be a comic book movie, it could be a horror movie, it could be a sci-fi movie, it could be a sitcom, it could be anything. And I thought that was genius. I think that this show has one of the best first episodes of all time for television shows. I really think that this first episode was brilliant. I loved it.
Good stuff. You know, one thing that stood out to me in that episode was they showed a lot of cleavage.
Yes.
For a Disney movie. And then they made the objective choice, the conscious decision to then, when she donned her Halloween costume in episode 6, to put the tassel of her cape like right in between her breasts, like to cover it up. Like that was too much cleavage. It really perplexed me because I was like, you guys showed a lot more.
I think it was a commentary. 1. I really think they were trying to do a commentary about how society's changed. And
oh, maybe that is what it is. That could
it's
be
weird. It's like a reverse commentary because if you were really to think about it, you would think, oh no, in the 1960s and 50s, cleavage was much more taboo than it is now. But if you think about it, it's not. It's doublespeak. It's exactly what George Orwell talked about, where people will say something, but it actually means the opposite. Sure, people were more conservative in the 1950s or 60s, but the way society has progressed, conservatism is now liberalism and vice versa. So when you have a woman that covers up her breasts more now than they would have in the 1960s, on one hand, you think, that doesn't make a lot of sense because we're more liberal now as a society. So you'd think no one's afraid of tits. In Europe, weather forecaster girls are naked, right? Like that's a thing in Europe. Like they just go on naked. It might
be a gimmick.
I think that's real. I think I've seen video. I'm not going to swear my mortgage on it or, swear my firstborn's life on it. But I swear to God, I've seen real footage of naked European women doing weather, like in a real capacity, like not like a game or a show or anything. But my point is, while we've become more liberal as a society in certain ways, we've actually become much more conservative in certain ways. And when it comes to showing the female form, we have actually become much more conservative in mainstream media since the 1950s, which is something most people would just like, it would break their brain to think about, but it's true.
I'm down with the ladies.
That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, what is your least favorite episode of WandaVision?
I think it's probably what was the episode where Monica Rambeau broke into Sword? That was
broke into Sword. What do you mean by that?
She went to the headquarters and she demanded to talk after she figured out that she that Wayward was had ulterior motives. I think it was episode 7.
Episode 7.
Yeah, no. Man, I don't know. I think I don't remember all these episodes. To be honest, I think the most boring episode for me was probably, if I'm really thinking about it, was episode 4. Yeah. Now that I'm looking at the description of the episodes, that's the one where she does go back to Sword and she figures out the connection with her mom and all that stuff, and then she goes to pass through the shield and whatnot, and there's that moment, and she gets her blue eyes and shit like that.
God,
yeah.
That was one of the worst parts of WandaVision was her blue eyes. Yeah, I agree with you. My least favorite episode is also episode 4, entitled "We Interrupt This Program," which is a really cool title for a really bad episode. So I blame Thanos for losing. This episode is Thanos' fault. He erased Monica Rambeau for the better. And somehow Avengers Endgame happens and erases that, and Monica Rambeau blips back into existence and steals WandaVision from us. Episode 4 becomes, Monica Rambeau. Oh, I'm going to go to talk to Sword, and I'm grounded now. They don't like me anymore, and blah, blah, blah. I was friends with Captain Marvel, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh no, you're going to go investigate this town, and it introduces us to all of the SJW lackeys at Sword. We have like our Asian lieutenant who played Kim Jong-un in The Interview, classic with Seth Rogen.
Jimmy Woo.
Yeah. I loved him. I loved him in The Interview. I don't love him in WandaVision. He was a cuck. He was the definition.
He always plays a cuck.
He does, but he was the definition of a cuck in this show. It was so bad. It was so hard to watch. Ugh.
I hated it. It was so. I hate when they do this obvious shit. It's just like they did the same. It was the same reason why Rey from Star Wars sucked.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, here she is. She's strong. She's female. She's proud. And it's just like, it's so dumb. Like, you had Scarlet Witch already had character progression. This is like what, the fourth thing she's appeared in, the fifth thing she's appeared in. She's having this super powerful moment. The whole series is like kind of telling you this in your face. It's like, this is quite the feat, to create a reality and have all these people hypnotized at the same time, blah, 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 blah. It's like, we can't get through it. We got to call in the experts. And then strong woman, not even knowing she's a superhero. She's just going to do some suicidal shit.
Mm.
She has a gut instinct, right? Because that's what heroes have. They got gut instincts. So she fucking runs into the field after people are like, don't do it. And she's like, fuck commanding officers. Fuck the order, like what, all that. She runs in it and she has her fucking moment where she remembers. I don't even know what it was. Like, I didn't watch Captain Marvel, so I'm sure there's some connection with her mother and Captain Marvel. But nonetheless, it was dumb. It was just like, I'm going to do nothing, and I'm going to have on-par powers are more powerful than the main protagonist of the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's dumb.
And we both agree that episode 4 is the worst episode. But the episode, I think we have to give an honorable mention to the episode where, I don't remember which one it was. It might have been 6 or 7, where Monica Rambeau is fighting with Scarlet Witch and like holding her own against her. That was the most cringy bullshit I've ever seen. I'm just like sitting here like, okay, cool. Yeah, sure.
That was, yeah, yeah, actually, you're right. You are right. Because what we are talking about specifically with her breaking through the bubble is episode 7.
I think
that's
so,
how
yeah.
that's when she goes and confronts Wanda, right?
Yeah,
because Wanda's like, "How did you get back in?"
Yeah, that is probably my honorable mention for second least good episode, the second worst episode, so to speak. It is not good, but everything with Monica Rambeau is literally the worst part of this show. She is the weak link of WandaVision.
I think it's the worst part of racism in society, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's in a rush to like diversify things, and they give them like the worst hand in the world. It's like, dude, everyone's down for a strong female hero or a strong black character. Don't give them a hand like that. That was lame. Yep. You gave them the second string in a television series.
Yeah.
And made them flounder at the end. Like, what? It's not a good setup. It's not a good setup.
Yeah. It's so sad, too, because it's like, oh, you just don't like strong black women. Well, let me tell you something. I love Sigourney Weaver in Aliens. I love Wesley Snipes in Blade. Put them together, you have a badass character. Put Monica Rambeau together, you have an SJW bullshit archetype that has absolutely no depth and is just literally a character to appease the modern political climate. It is anti-art. Monica Rambeau in this show is the opposite of art. She is a corporate-funded construct of death.
What about Pam Grier, dude?
Oh.
Foxy Brown, dude.
Foxy Brown.
That's a strong black woman right there.
There's a lot of strong black women out there. Broadcaster Nickels. Monica Rambeau is not one of them. That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, as you know, here on the Crack Cellar Podcast, we have this killer segment called The Hit, The Miss, and The Whiff. What is your hit?
there's a lot of things that could be the hit. But to be honest, if I'm being really, really, really honest here, it's Paul Bentley.
Ooh.
The
I
guy
like
the guy holds it together.
He does.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, if he wasn't in this series, I think my interest of it would probably drop at least 50%, because he's a really good actor. He's a really good he knows how to deliver lines. He's funny. And like it plays through in his lines and stuff like that. He has a lot of good chemistry with all the characters, and it's like, I feel like if he wasn't in these scenes, Wanda, I don't know the actress's name, but I just don't think she would have been able to pull it off all on her own, you know?
Dude,
like even with Agatha,
Elizabeth Olsen is the dude. Are you kidding me? You don't know Elizabeth Olsen?
That's her name, Elizabeth Olsen. Okay.
Let me tell you a little story. It's called Full House. On Full House, there were two identical twins that were little baby girls, and then they grew up. They were the Olsen twins.
That's not one of the Olsens, is it?
No, she isn't. She is the younger sister of the Olsen twins. She is the good Olsen twin, Broadcaster Nickels. She's the non-cocaine acted Olsen twin.
This makes sense.
She is like the pristine ultimate form of the Olsens.
The final form.
She is. She is perfect Olsen. She is, for sure. I love her too. I like her as Scarlet Witch. It's so funny. We talk about all these female superheroes, and we always get accused of like, oh, you just don't like women. You don't like. It's like, I like so many female characters in every, like, sci-fi, horror, comic, whatever you want to say. I have so many female characters I like. Scarlet Witch is a great example. She is one of the strongest Marvel MCU female superheroes that exists in the MCU.
She's OP as fuck.
She's OP as fuck, and her character isn't cringy. It's cool, and the actress that plays her is good. She is the anti-Captain Marvel, essentially.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm not taking away the fact that she's a good actress and a good character, and she plays it well. It's just,
she's so earnest.
If you know, the reason why I gave Paul the hit is just, I just feel like if they actually couldn't bring in him and Vision for this show, if it was just Wanda, not WandaVision, that I just don't know would have been a hit. I don't know about that.
Oh, I love Paul Bettany as fucking Vision too. Paul Bettany, you're right when you say that he's just a great actor, period. I've seen him in a lot of things now, and he's fucking great in all of them. He is just a very good actor, as is Elizabeth Olsen. And they work great together. They have some of the best on-screen chemistry since fucking Sam Carter and Jack O'Neill from SG-1. Like, they seriously have that. They have that X factor together.
Probably because they're banging.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean, if I was Paul, I'd be... Come on, dude. I'm a married man. That's my best accent.
Well, Broadcaster Nickels, my hit's a little different. It's the commercials. I loved the commercial breaks in the good episodes, which I think was like 6 out of 9. I think there were 3 episodes that were sword episodes that had no commercials. And then like the other 6 were era-specific episodes that had an era-specific commercial. And they were all so well done, and they all tied in so meta into the show, just like the John Hamm narrated sequences in Legion Season 2, which I almost felt like it was a shout out to those. It was perfect. I loved it. And I love the fact they had the same two the actress and the actor playing off each other in each commercial. It was always the same. They didn't recast the commercial actors. It was always the same two in different eras. I loved that. And it just
that would have been really cool if Legion popped up in WandaVision.
Oh God. That's too much to ask for, I think.
It almost would have made too much sense.
Yep, for sure.
If he would have
for
popped
sure.
up, all of a sudden you've been like, oh, okay.
That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, what is your miss?
Legion not being in WandaVision.
Oh, shit.
No. I think honestly the miss is too easy. The miss. Well, I mean, I guess it could be the whiff too.
Oh,
But I think it's more appropriate.
that's
to be
the
the
danger,
miss, 'cause
man.
It was so
The
heinous.
miss and the whiff can
It was
always
so
be
heinous.
each other. They're like a mirror
miss-
of each other.
The miss was Pietro.
Ooh.
There's no doubt about it. There's,
Mm.
is this? It was bullshit. Really, it was. It was just grade A horseshit. Like, I mean, there's no other way to cut it. People wanted it. They knew it. They dangled it. And then they were like, no, not this time. Maybe next time. That's all, folks. It's just like, that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And honestly, it took away from the overall arc for the character in the series. When you see him, you have set in motion something. There's now some expectations, and if you fall flat on those, it's going to be bad. So you use it or you lose it. That's the type of thing. And I feel like they just lost it with that. They just relegated that character to one-off fucking, he was just this thing. He's dead. He doesn't belong in this universe. It almost shat on the whole notion of, existing characters and their actors possibly making it into MCU someday.
It was like
They're
them
like,
confirming, nope, not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, nah.
That makes me feel really worried for Ryan Reynolds. That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, my miss would be Monica Rambeau. We've talked about her to a very great length, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but I'm just going to say, if only Thanos won. If only Endgame never happened, we may have had a better character.
Lingerer.
That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, what is your whiff?
My whiff is going to be a little bit more of a 90s kids call out. Only the 90s kids will understand.
Is this going to be Blossom related?
No, but it's going to be extra Disney deep.
Oh.
I'm not talking about a soul skating connection. I'm not talking about Team Pup and Suds. But I am talking about an old hitter called Halloween Town. All right? And when I saw episode 6, All Halloween Spooktacular,
and
everyone was in town and shit, I was just like, oh, snap. This literally looks like the set of Halloween Town. And Disney owns Halloween Town.
Yeah.
Let's get a Halloween shout out here.
God, that's such a great observation.
Nothing at all.
Nope.
Come on.
Yeah.
It just seemed like one of those extra kiddie moments, and Disney looks for those opportunities, and like they could have recycled Halloween Town once everyone was like, what's Halloween Town, let's Google that, and then they're like, don't worry, it's coming out in 2022. And then, like, it's a perfect opportunity, guys. Get me in on the board. All right, get me in on the board.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that Halloween episode was like a weird episode for me, because when it first started, like the beginning of the episode, I'm getting settled in for the episode I think is going to be my favorite episode of the season. A, Halloween is my favorite holiday. B, Halloween takes place in my favorite season. C, I love the concept of a sitcom doing a Halloween episode, much sort of in like the vein of like Stranger Things. Like there's like this weird vibe with like like the fourth wall breaking, because like this has some fourth wall breaking sort of attributes to it. And when you combine that with Halloween, you just think, oh, I'm going to get something special in this episode. There was almost nothing special about this episode. All it really did was confirm that Pietro isn't what you wanted him to be. It gives you this weird scene with Agatha and Vision where ends up just being like a wink, like you said, like Agatha's winking at the camera off screen. It just kind of becomes a nothing burger. And
it kind of is.
I really expected it to be like my favorite episode of the entire season, and it just wasn't. It wasn't that good, and it was kind of depressing.
It was almost like the Halloween gimmick was there on purpose. They put the old Vision costume on, the old Scarlet Witch costume, the old Quicksilver costume on. They're like, hey, look at these, because the storyline to this episode sucks.
Yeah, it did. It was a smokescreen for sure. Yeah. That being said, my whiff is FBI Director Ol Whitey. Enjoy a Coke and give it to Ol Whitey.
Wow.
Was it? I mean, okay. Let's just be really honest. There's a lot of SJW punching bag characters nowadays in like every show. Every show sort of has like this old white cis male that's the villain, but not in like a direct villain sense. Like not like the way Agatha was a villain, but in the way that just like, oh, this pawn. Like they treat them like pawns, and they're sort of like these side characters that are like, oh, we're the patriarchy villain, and we need a symbolic defeat of the patriarchy. And that's what he was, dude. He was literally just there to be like, I stole your job from you, Monica Rambeau, while you were fingers snapped by Thanos, and now I'm not going to give it back, and I'm going to ground you, and then, oh, I'm going to go on this nefarious plot to do nothing, basically, and oh, then I'm gonna get arrested because I guess
I'm white.
I'm white, yeah.
And that's right.
It was a horribly written, farcical mess, which is pretty common nowadays, but it just stood out. It stood out really bad in WandaVision. This character was such horseshit that every time he came on screen, I rolled my eyes.
You know what he kind of looks like? Remember Law and Order SVU's main male protagonist? He looks like the younger brother trying to follow in Big Brother's footsteps.
I didn't think SVU would come into this conversation, but I 100% agree with you, Broadcaster Nickels.
They have like the same hairline. Maybe that's it.
Dun-dun-dun. Well, Broadcaster Nickels, as you know, here on the Crack Cellar Podcast, we have an official Nick Cage rating system that has been ordained by the gods. And on that system, I would like to know what you rate Matt Shakman's WandaVision.
I'm going to give it a rock.
Ooh.
Give it a solid rock. Not because it's not capable of being a Wicker Man, because it is. All right, let's be real here. Some of these episodes are as fake as fucking Nick coming through that door and showing that badge, all right? But there's enough good shit going on in this series, especially some of the hitters, like what you said in episode 1. Like fucking episode 1 just kind of hooks you. It's so good. Then it comes back in episode, what is it? Episode 5, it really starts taking off with most of its plot line. It's super good with the Vision slowly coming back into the fray, like Wanda, the Scarlet Witch actually being fleshed out. It was really cool. I didn't think they were going to do her justice.
They did.
it just, it was really good. What else am I missing? I know even though I dogged on Pietro coming up, the fact that he was even in it, it was still cool. Like all the costumes, all the throwbacks, Agatha Harkness not only being in it, but I forget her name, but a great actress. It was just all around. It was solid, but it was kind of like an imperfect gem. It could be polished. It could be refined.
For sure. And Agatha is definitely like one of the hidden gems of this show. This show could have been really bad. You can, like, after watching the whole thing, you can see like all these vectors in which the show could have gone off the rails, but it just narrowly avoided it. And even the stuff that's bad with like FBI director Ol Whitey and Monica Rambeau and all the sword stuff, if you kind of erase that stuff and you just kind of focus on what the show itself was outside of that B plot, you kind of are like, wow, this is a really good show. But you're burdened by the knowledge that there were episodes that were just like a total farcical mess. And you're just like, what is happening? It's a weird one, but I'm going to give it a Con Air, a weak Con Air. This is, what this is? This is a Con Air if the convicts took over the plane and couldn't figure out how to pilot it and then just crashed it into a mountain. It's that kind of Con Air. Like, it's not the happy ending Con Air where Nick Cage gets off the plane and meets his wife. And,
this isn't... Oh, damn. This is a Steve Buscemi ending Con Air.
Yes, exactly. This is the Steve Buscemi ending Con Air. Like, it's good, but it has some really dark aspects to it, and you kind of just have to ignore that and move along. You just kind of got to forget about Steve Buscemi at the bottom of a waterless pool with a little 10-year-old girl. You got to forget about that part and kind of just focus on the other stuff. And that being said, Broadcaster Nickels, we will close out.
I just remembered we didn't bring up what's her name from Thor, who made her appearance, her
Are you talking about
comeback
Padme?
appearance. No.
Padme.
No, the Padme's assistant from Thor. You remember the nerdy chick?
Oh shit, you're right. The chick. Oh yeah, you're right. She was the one who like drove like the ice cream truck into the shield or whatever.
Yeah,
like, that was a weird.
I guess she ended up with Steve Buscemi.